Trade wars. What is a trade war anyway? A trade war is a situation which countries try to damage each other's trade, typically by the imposition of tariffs or quota restrictions. Let's take a quick look at what happens when one country tries to control another country's exports. Remember the Boston Tea Party that turned into the American Revolution? How about the embargo on Castro's Cuban cigars in the 60s? How many stogies were smuggled out of Cuba? Or the Opium War between China and Great Britain in the 1800s, where Britain retaliated against Chinese tea imports by exporting opium to China, causing a disastrous epidemic. The Great Depression of the 1930s was stalled by the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, shutting down world trade. Nobody wins these wars. There are always dangers when we ignore history. And when we keep repeating history, everyone gets worried. So what's happening in the United States that sets stages for this trade war? First off, Donald Trump was elected president last year using the slogan, America First, as his battle cry. Then, Trump withdrew from the Trans-Pacific Partnership his first day in office, denying American exporters better access to foreign markets from 11 critically important Pacific nations. This announced to the world he is a true believer of aggressive trade protectionism. Next, he announced plans to renegotiate NAFTA, much to the chagrin of Mexico and Canada. Now the Trump administration wants to impose trade penalties against China, and blowback is the expected consequence. He suggests the United States impose tariffs on steel and aluminum. Trump's motto of America First is threatening our international trade system of open and free markets, one we helped create. The world's economies are far more independent than they were, say, during the Great Depression, and a my country first trade policy could have disastrous consequences for California, as the ripple effect takes hold here. How disastrous? Let's take a look. Suppose the European Union decides to retaliate by imposing tariffs on American goods like Harley-Davidson motorcycles or Kentucky bourbon. Suppose China decides to push back and impose punitive duties on $3 billion worth of U.S. imports coming from American farmers. And how does the World Trade Organization feel about the disruption in global trade? The World Trade Organization has warned a trade war with China could severely derail the global economy. Some economists think this trade war will never materialize once President Trump realizes what he's up against. Once a list of U.S. tariffs against China is compared to the full list of tariffs against the United States by other nations all over the world, Trump will probably back down. Some see Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum as fairly crude as he tries to block competition and make the American steel industry stronger. China, on the other hand, is retaliating by focusing on how to get its hands on American intellectual property, a much more sophisticated means, not an end. If the trade war does materialize, what will it mean for the average American? Gross domestic product will shrink. Americans will start paying more for those cheap Chinese products we've been buying for years. And corporations may very well pass on the cost of tariffs to the American consumer. California will be particularly hard hit, according to the Brookings Institute think tank in DC, as the agricultural industry, pharmaceuticals, Boeing aircraft, plastics, and Tesla cars will feel a big pinch. Inflation will rise, new job prospects will disappear, and consumers will lose confidence all over again. Trump claims a trade war will be easy to win may have some validity since Chinese imports to America exceed American exports to China. But tit-for-tat retaliation? Ultimately, makes industries weaker, not stronger. So, how can it be easy to win when everybody loses?